No one showed up for the paralyzed CEO's birthday. Then, a single dad shocked everyone. A chandelier cast golden light across the grand ballroom as a three-tier birthday cake waited, untouched, in the center of the room. Every chair was perfectly arranged. Every glass had been polished. Every invitation had been accepted. Yet, as the clock struck 7, not a single guest walked through the doors. The woman sitting quietly in her wheelchair stared at the empty tables, fighting back tears. She wasn't just one of the country's most successful CEOs. She was also a woman whose life had changed forever after a tragic accident left her paralyzed. On the one night she hoped to feel remembered, instead of pitied, everyone abandoned her. But wait, just when she believed the evening was over, the ballroom doors slowly opened and a single father, carrying an old backpack and holding his little daughter's hand, stepped inside. What happened next would change every life in that room, forever. If you believe kindness is more powerful than money, status, or success, take a moment to like this video, drop a comment, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe to Fireside Files. Every small act of support helps us share more heart-touching stories that remind the world compassion still exists. Emma Lawson had built one of the largest technology companies in the country before turning 40. Newspapers called her unstoppable. Investors admired her fearless decisions. Employees respected her honesty. Then one rainy evening, everything changed. A truck lost control on a slippery highway, crashing into her car. She survived, but the injury to her spine left her unable to walk. Overnight, the fearless CEO became dependent on a wheelchair. The physical pain slowly healed, but the loneliness that followed was far worse. Friends became distant. Business partners became formal. Some people only saw her disability instead of the determined woman she had always been. Still, Emma refused to give up. She returned to work, leading meetings with confidence, even when every movement caused discomfort. She inspired thousands by proving that leadership had nothing to do with standing on 2 feet. Yet birthdays were different. They reminded her of family members she had lost, friendships that had faded, and the simple happiness she once enjoyed before the accident. Her assistant spent weeks organizing an elegant birthday celebration. Hundreds of invitations were sent to executives, politicians, celebrities, movie stars, and old friends. Every one of them confirmed they would attend. Emma secretly hoped that, perhaps, this year would feel different. But here's where it all fell apart. Hours before the party, excuses began arriving one after another. A business emergency, a delayed flight, a family commitment, traffic, illness. Some didn't even bother to explain. By evening, every guest had canceled. Emma sat quietly beside the untouched cake, staring at the rows of empty chairs. The silence inside the luxurious ballroom was louder than any crowd she had ever faced. For the first time in years, she wondered if people had admired her success, but never truly cared about her as a person. Across town, Daniel Carter had just finished another exhausting day delivering packages. Since losing his wife to cancer 4 years earlier, he had raised his 12-year-old daughter, Lily, alone. Every day was a balancing act between earning enough money and being present for the little girl who depended entirely on him. Life was difficult, but Daniel never allowed hardship to take away his kindness. While making his final delivery at the hotel hosting Emma's party, Daniel noticed employees quietly clearing untouched food from the tables. Curious, he learned that the celebration had been canceled because nobody had come. He looked toward the lonely woman sitting beside the enormous birthday cake. Something about the sadness in her eyes reminded him of the nights his daughter cried herself to sleep after losing her mother. Without thinking twice, Daniel asked the hotel manager whether guests were still allowed inside. The manager hesitated, then nodded. Daniel walked back outside, picked up Lily from the delivery van, and together, they entered the silent ballroom. Now, watch what happens next. Emma looked up in surprise as the father and daughter slowly approached. They weren't dressed in expensive suits. Daniel still wore his delivery uniform, and Lily held a small paper gift wrapped with colorful markers instead of expensive ribbon. Daniel explained that birthdays should never be spent alone. He admitted they hadn't been invited, but they couldn't bear the thought of someone celebrating without a single person beside them. Lily stepped forward shyly and handed Emma the handmade card she had drawn during her school lunch break. Inside was a picture of 3 people smiling around a birthday cake beneath bright sunshine. Written in careful handwriting were simple words, "Nobody deserves to feel forgotten." Emma felt tears filling her eyes before she even finished reading. For the first time that evening, she smiled. The hotel staff, watching from a distance, quietly gathered around. One chef brought fresh coffee. Another employee relit the birthday candles. A pianist, who had packed away his music, returned to the piano and softly began playing "Happy Birthday." Within minutes, the empty ballroom no longer felt empty. The workers who had spent all day preparing the event decided to stay after their shifts. Security guards joined them. Housekeepers stopped cleaning, long enough to clap and sing. Waiters filled plates that had been waiting untouched for hours. Emma looked around in disbelief. The people she had expected to impress had abandoned her. The people she had never noticed had become her family for the evening. As everyone shared dinner together, Daniel spoke honestly about raising Lily alone. He explained how grief had taught him that showing up for someone often mattered more than having the perfect words. Emma listened carefully, realizing that genuine compassion could never be measured by wealth or status. The following Monday, Emma surprised everyone at company headquarters. Instead of announcing another business expansion, she introduced a new foundation dedicated to supporting single parents, caregivers, and people recovering from life-changing injuries. She named the program the Empty Chair Initiative, reminding everyone that no person should ever face life's hardest moments alone. She also offered Daniel a leadership position, managing the foundation's community outreach projects. At first, he hesitated, believing someone else deserved the opportunity more. But Emma knew something the business world often forgot. Character could not be bought, candidness could not be taught in boardrooms, and integrity revealed itself through actions when nobody was watching. Months later, thousands of struggling families had received support because one father decided to walk through a doorway everyone else ignored. Emma often looked at Lily's handmade birthday card, sitting on her office desk. Whenever difficult decisions came, she read the words again. Nobody deserves to feel forgotten. Those words became the heart of her company. Success was no longer measured only by profits. It was measured by lives changed. Before we reach the end, if this story touched your heart, even a little, right, kindness always shows up in the comments. We'd love to know you're watching from somewhere in the world and that you believe one small act of compassion can change someone's life forever. As Emma celebrated her next birthday, the ballroom was once again filled with people. But this time, they weren't celebrities or powerful executives. They were families whose lives had been transformed, children who had found hope, caregivers who finally felt seen, and employees who understood that true leadership begins with compassion. At the center of the celebration stood Daniel and Lily, no longer strangers, but family by choice. Emma realized the greatest birthday gift had never been expensive presents or famous guests. It had been the courage of one ordinary single father who refused to let another human being feel invisible. If this story reminded you that kindness still exists in the world, like this video, share it with your friends and family, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Fireside Files. Your support helps us continue sharing inspiring stories that bring hope, compassion, and humanity to people everywhere.